Hello everyone. Time to talk about making trees. I've been making trees for the diorama. You can see them there in the background over there. Let me drop the camera a little bit and zoom in. They're a little on the brown side because I just got through painting them brown. They don't look all that great right now, not where you guys can see it. Let me do this. Let me drop the camera here and bring one of them over. This is the biggest of the trees. To me, it looks like a tree that you'd find in the winter, somewhat. Some of the copper wire is still showing through the paint. I'm going to have to give it another round of paint. But it looks something like a tree. Now, I'm going to explain what I'm doing to make this with. And let me get one of the smaller ones over, show you guys it. Okay. There's one of the smaller trees. My camera wants to focus on everything but it. Once it gets its second coat of brown paint tomorrow, I can put some leaves on it. I'll explain what I'm doing with that in a little bit. So let me zoom the camera out, show you guys how I'm making these. First off, it's copper wire. Okay. Where do I get copper wire? Called an extension cord that you cut up. You can see I've already split the cord. I've been harvesting trees. I'd say the 5 trees over there took up about 3 feet of extension cord. So on my, well, this wasn't an extension cord actually, it was a printer cord. We went office space on that printer at work because, well, it was just a really bad printer and we thought it'd be fun to destroy it. So there were pieces of printer all over the parking lot. But anyhow, let me show you how I'm getting the copper out of here, because it took me a while to figure out how to do it in the best way. I take my copper, let me move the camera down, there we go. I take my extension cord, lay it down, got my box cutting knife, I put the blade into it and pull. And that strips the insulation right off. Okay? It's also the safest way to do it because my hands are not anywhere, I'm not scraping anything towards me. I'm pulling the blade away from me and it strips that insulation completely away from the copper wire. You can end up cutting a piece of the wire here and there, but that just adds to the treeness. I'll be back after I've stripped some more wire. Okay? So back in a bit. Okay, got my wire out. I have enough wire here to make 2, maybe 3 trees. Now, first word of warning, you're going to get copper fragments everywhere. So make sure you clean up your workplace later. If you walk around barefoot in your house and you get a piece of copper wire embedded in your foot, that is not going to be fun to get out. So, just a word of warning, it's going to be messy. Okay, and part of that is because they use stranded wire and extension cords to make them flexible, and the wire breaks everywhere. But since they're encased in rubber, yeah, that's an email. I'm gonna have to fix that. But since they're encased in rubber, no one really cares about it breaking. No one just really does. So, I've seen a couple of ways of doing this. One, you can double it up on itself, and that'll give you your height of your tree. Double it up to the height of the tree you want. This is a 1/350 scale, so I don't want anything incredibly large. Okay? I've seen some of the terrain guys making trees out of this copper wire that were a good 10-12 inches tall. I'm not doing that. That's not my scale. So I doubled it, and I'm going to cut it right where they line up. I'm also going to cut a 3rd strand because this is going to be one of my bigger trees to match that. So I'm only going to get 2 trees out of this pole. That's okay. Set that piece apart. So I got my 3 strands here. Now I got a couple of pieces that are sticking out, and if you see me flinching a little bit, it's because I squeezed down a piece of copper's poking me in the finger, poking a hole through my skin. So I'm going to take that and twist that around to help kind of solidify it. If I really wanted them to stick together really well, I'd get out my soldering gun and soldering iron, and do some solder. I'm going to give them a couple of twists around the bottom, just to get them to hold together really well up to a certain point. pull some of these strands out that are going. Now, right here, I have 3 strands, 3 main branches that are easily separated. Okay? Now, let's think about a tree for a few minutes. Trees have a big central trunk, and then they spread out in a fan pattern. They do that to gather the most light possible. Alright? So what I'm going to do is take each one of these strands and start separating them to give them some branches. It really doesn't matter how you do this. I kind of like to just fan all the wires out and then start grouping them. Okay? Now, you don't want to do this completely fanned because then it looks like an umbrella. And trees do not look like umbrellas. Alright? Another thing, you do want to keep some of them grouped together, because look what I did with this tree, if you can see it. There's lots and lots of branchings on that tree. So once I get this, I take some of the wires and twist them together. Okay? And then I take and repeat that process as I go down the tree, giving it some more branching. Now, I like to leave the ends of my little twisted branches kind of spread out, because that's what trees do. As they go down, they spread. Alright? And I don't know if you guys can see what I just did there, but it leaves kind of a branching spread pattern. Let me zoom in on that so you guys can see that a little bit better. So it's leaving kind of a twisted pattern to it right here. Okay? And I'm going to repeat that with the rest of this, just slowly pulling them. I might cut some of them to make them shorter, some of them not. So let's see if we can keep this on camera. So I'm going to take this one, split it, okay, and then this one I'm going to branch again one more time, but not much. And why don't I do this? Why don't I stop the camera? Because I think you guys, let's let the camera run a little bit longer, because this isn't too horribly boring and it's not going to take me that long. It's a fun part. This process doesn't take a lot of time. Splitting that. And I try not to just do anything by some sort of pattern. And let's split this one a little bit more than it is. And again, you don't want to let them all be completely twisted up at the end. You want them spread out in a fan pattern, because that's what trees do. As they branch, they form fan patterns near the ends of their branches. And sorry, some of that was off camera. But you can already see she's starting to take a tree shape to her. And that's not taking me this long to do. This is actually a pretty quick and easy method to making trees. So let me finish this one up. And then we'll take a break for a second. I will anyhow, because I need to get something ready to show you the rest of this. Let's swap these two. I want this one going upwards. She's thicker. Okay, there's the finished product of just my wire bending. Bright and shiny, so you can see her. You can see there's lots of strands just left loose at the end, and because that's the way trees go. Up next, we need to put something on there to get it to hold its shape, because right now this thing's just not going to hold its shape. Trees, copper wire will not hold its shape unless you glue it up or something. So I need to get prepared for that. I'm also going to go ahead and bend up my other tree so that I have 2 of these to work on at once. So I'll be back in a bit. Got my trees ready. Let me show you what I'm doing to get them where they don't bend on you. What we have here is a bottle cap with PVA glue in it, or white glue. Okay, I added a few drops of water to water it down because I don't want to use straight up PVA glue. I have my tree in a handy clamp, and I just paint the PVA glue on there with an old brush. Okay, the water allows it to be sucked into the joints in the copper using capillary action. And when the glue dries, it stiffens the copper up and it doesn't move around on you so much. Okay, and it won't come apart quickly or easily. Not only that, if you get any extra glue drops anywhere, it just looks like a knot in the wood. This tree is going to be pretty pathetic because, well, I really didn't care about him. Oh, that's not true. Yeah, it is. But, thinking about it, when I was making this tree, what happened is some of my copper wires just broke right in half. When you're looking at trees, they're not all pretty and beautiful, so this one tree here is going to add some character to my little forest of trees. I don't know how many trees I'm going to make for my Gundam kit. I mean not Gundam. Wow, where'd that come from? For my Godzilla kit. I don't know how many of these trees I'm going to build. Partially because every time I look at one of the Godzilla movies, yes, the monsters are fighting, never in a forest. And I think part of that was, well, if we build a forest, these guys are going to fight in the forest, and they're going to destroy it. And on top of that, we might actually get one of our actors in the rubber suit hurt. Yes, I'm dripping PVA glue everywhere. But I came prepared for that. Got a piece of paper towel to set that on and let it dry. Let me get my bigger tree. Bam! We have actors in a rubber suit, and I don't think we really want them getting hurt. So we set it up with hardly any trees, hardly anything but a couple of styrofoam rocks. That way if an actor fell in a rubber suit, he didn't fall on something that could potentially hurt him severely. So that's why I think there aren't too many trees, so I'm not going to have to make too many of these. I'm going to try to stick to what you would see in the movie instead of going realistic. Because, well, let's face it, you know, a 171 foot tall monster stomping on a Japanese castle, how realistic is that? Yeah, it's not. Although I could do it and just say, hey, it was a scene you didn't see in the movie, right? So we could do that. But I'm not going to. I'm going to just go ahead and try to reproduce something like you would see in the movie. So here I am, painting tree and rambling. I think you guys have seen enough of my painting of the tree. So I'm going to stop and come back later.